What is up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the Numbers. This is my full card breakdown and prediction video for UFC Jacksonville. We have Ilia Topuria going against Josh Emmett.
I need all the wins, yeah. Harder than all that is. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out.
And we are back for another full card breakdown and prediction video. This week breaking down a very good card, fight night card. We're out of the Apex, 14 fights. UFC Jacksonville, really looking forward to this card, really looking forward to this main event in Ilia Topuria, Josh Emmett. Yeah, this card's a banger. I think there's a lot of very fun fights. I think we're going to get a lot of violence, and that's really all I could ask for on a Saturday. So really looking forward to it. Before we get started, if you guys can please leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. It is always appreciated. Also consider signing up on my website, dfsbythenumbers.com. A ton of content you do not see on YouTube on there. You get access to the stats you see on the Friday and Saturday shows. You get first notice on all my bets. Right now I have one, but I'm going to start releasing a couple more after this show. My parlay, my prelim parlay, Hail Mary parlay, and main card parlay, which all hit last week, and my full card breakdown and best bet article where I break down the entire card, give my best bet, confidence ratings, pick, round method, all that good stuff. Yeah, coming off of a really good week last week. Was not able to watch the card. I was at a wedding like in the middle of nowhere with terrible connection, but ended up having a really good night thanks to my guy Arman Sarukian taking his time and hitting my first round 3 prop of the year. Love hitting those round 3 props and was able to get that. And then Costa knocked out Flick. And then the other big thing was the Moda under 1.5 violence in general. So really good card last week. Looking to keep the momentum rolling on this UFC Jacksonville card where I think we will get more violence as well. Other than that, going live Friday, sometime after the weigh-ins. I'm also going to be on Narco Cop's best Lambo Play show as well. And then I will be doing my best bet show on Saturday. So make sure you guys tune into all that later in the week. But yeah, I say we get into it. And we're going to start with the first fight on the card. And we have a fight that was supposed to be on the main card. They actually brought it from the main card to the prelims here, to the first prelim. And we got Cody Brundage going against Sedriques Dumas. We got Cody Brundage, 29 years old, 6 foot with a 72-inch reach, 8-4, and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Sedriques Dumas, 27 years old, 6'2" with a 79-inch reach, 7-1, and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. So we take a look at the odds here. We see that Cody Brundage, this line has just gotten kind of wild. So Cody Brundage actually opened up as a dog, plus 130, and we're going to notice this throughout the entire video. Like, these lines this week have just been wild to the point where I'm like, you know, what's going on with some of these lines? And this is one of them. Cody Brundage opened up at plus 130. He's currently minus 175. Sedriques Dumas opened up minus 150. He is currently plus 150 there. So yeah, this is a tough fight for me to call. So I've picked against Cody Brundage in every single one of his fights, and I think I'm like 3-2. I think he's 2-3 in his fights, but I think I'm going to pick Cody Brundage in this matchup. I don't feel amazing about it. I think there's a ton of recency bias in this line. Like, I saw Cody Brundage sitting around minus 115 earlier in the week, and at that point I was like, yeah, I'm kind of tempted in Cody Brundage minus 115. Then this guy got out to like minus 225 at one point. I'm like, what's going on? Because you watch the tape on Dumas prior to the Frem fight, he looks really good. You know, he's really big for the division, going to have a big height and big reach advantage in this matchup in particular. Very hard leg kicks, good head kick, and solid grappling as well. But it's just in that Frem fight in his debut, a lot of people were on him. A lot of people went heavy on him as a big favorite against Frem, and he burnt a lot of people. That's why I think we're getting such a big price tag on Cody Brundage. I think this fight should be lined a lot closer. But in terms of making a pick, I am going to pick Cody Brundage. I think Cody Brundage, his striking's looked a lot better as of late. Went out there, striking looked solid against Tresean Gore. His striking looked really good against Rodolfo Vieira, showing a ton of power, knocking out Gore, dropping Rodolfo Vieira, hurting him multiple times in that fight. Cody Brundage hits very, very hard. And in that Fremd-Dumas fight, Fremd was hurting Dumas with pretty much everything that landed. Like, Fremd would hit him with something big, and then instead of Fremd following up and trying to knock him out, he instantly, once he hurt him, he took him down, which I did not like that, but it was ended up finishing Dumas in the second round regardless. And it just looked like Dumas kind of quit. Like, it looked like Dumas just quit in there once Frem, wrapped the neck. It looked like he tapped instantly. So I'm just not sure how good Dumas really is. I don't want to, crap on him too bad for his debut, because like I said, prior to that, he looked solid, but that just was not a great look. And obviously Brundage and Fremd, they are teammates, for whatever that's worth. But I'm going to take Brundage to knock out Dumas in the very first round. I think this fight's going to be an absolute car crash, like all Cody Brundage fights are. But give me Cody Brundage to knock out Sedriques Dumas in the first round. Next, we got Tatsuro Tair going against Kleydson Rodrigues. We got Tair, 23 years old, 5'7" with a 70-inch reach, 13-0, 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Kleydson Rodrigues, 27 years old, 5'6" with a 67-inch reach, 8-2. And 4-1 in his last 5 fights. So we have Tatsuro Tair, more pretty wild line movement here. Tair opened up minus 650. He's currently minus 250. Kleydson Rodrigues opened up just a massive underdog, plus 475, currently plus 210. And yeah, at those odds, I'm like, yeah, they're crazy. I think Rodrigues is getting disrespected. I like the line a lot better where it's at now. I'm very high on really both guys, I'd say, but more so high on Tatsuro Tair. Kleydson Rodrigues was somebody that really impressed me from the Contender Series, looked really good on the Contender Series in his fight, and then makes his debut and against CJ Vergara, and did not look that great. Kind of dropped his stock a little bit, at least in my eyes. And then he bounced back with a really good first-round knockout against Shannon Ross, but that doesn't really tell me much. Tatsuro Tair, this guy's good. I think his grappling's honestly phenomenal. The wrestling's okay. The striking is very underrated as well. He's only 23 years old, which is just wild. He's going to be 4 years younger in this matchup. I've seen Kleydson Rodrigues taken down. I've seen him controlled for long periods of time in the Vergara fight. Vergara was able to get into some dominant positions in that fight as well. And I think if Tatsuro Tair does take down Kleydson Rodrigues, it's probably going to be over shortly after. It's just going to be a matter of time. So Tair, I think he gets this fight down to the mat, and once he does, I think he works that ground game and gets a second round submission here. So love me some Tatsuro Tair. The original price tag minus 650, yeah, that's wild, but minus 250, I think that is much better there. But I like Tair to win this fight. I like him to win this fight by second round sub. Moving on, we got Jamall Emmers going against Jack Jenkins. We got Jamall Emmers, 33 years old, 5'10" with a 74-inch reach, 19-6 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Jack Jenkins, 30 years old, 5'7" with a 68-inch reach, 11-2, 5-0 in his last 5 fights. So we'll take a look at the odds here. Jamall Emmers, another line where I'm like, what's going on? Jamall Emmers opened up minus 170, currently minus 210, and Jack Jenkins opened up plus 145, currently plus 180. So there's a lot of wide lines on this card. There's a lot of favorites I like. There's a lot of favorites I'm picking. I just don't like a lot of these price tags, and including this one especially. I mean, you do not want to lay minus 210 on someone like Jamall Emmers. I think Jamall Emmers has all the skill in the world. Like, this guy is good everywhere, so well-rounded. This is a guy that's going to have a 6-inch reach advantage. That is huge in this matchup. 3-inch height advantage. The guy's big. The guy can strike. Very good volume. Very good power. He can wrestle offensively, defensively. He can grapple. He's about as well-rounded as you can get. The problem with Jamall Emmers is the fight IQ. The fight IQ is atrocious. Like, I remember betting Jamall Emmers against Giga Chikadze. I think it was a dog. First of all, he arguably won that fight, but he could have easily won that fight had he have wrestled sooner than he did. I think it took him like 8 minutes to shoot his first takedown. He gets it easily. I mean, he should have wrestled a lot earlier in that matchup against Giga. He chose to strike with him and ultimately lose that fight. And then there was the fight with Pat Sabatini. He's piecing up Pat Sabatini on the feet. He drops him. He goes down to the mat with Pat Sabatini, and then he starts playing footsie with him, and he gets his I think it's his legs now. I mean, it was bad. Injury that took some time off after that. So, I mean, he just makes these poor decisions. But, talent-wise, Jamall Emmers is super talented. But yeah, this line's kind of wild. Like, minus 210, like, this fight's going to be pretty competitive because Jack Jenkins, kind of the same thing with him. He's pretty well-rounded everywhere. He can strike, really good leg kicks. He can grapple. He can wrestle a little bit. I just kind of think Jamall Emmers is going to be able to be the better striker. He's going to be the one that dictates where this fight takes place. If Jamall Emmers wants this on the feet, it's going to stay on the feet. If Jamall Emmers wants to take down Jack Jenkins, I think he can do that as well. It's just going to all come down to whether Jamall Emmers goes out here and fights with a smart game plan and doesn't make a mistake across 15 minutes. If he does that, I think he does win this fight, and I think I will pick Jamall Emmers to win this fight by decision, but there's no way I would ever lay this price tag on Jamall Emmers. Like, I bet Jamall Emmers in his last fight as a decent-sized dog against that, I think, Ash Kebab guy that everybody was super high on, undefeated fraud-type guy, and even at plus money, I was like, I don't feel good about this Jamall Emmers, but I couldn't imagine laying minus 210 on Jamall Emmers. So the pick is Jamall Emmers, but I will not be betting this fight. Next, we got Trevor Peek going against Chepe Mariscal. One of the best fights on the card, and it is on the prelims, ladies and gentlemen. Really looking forward to this fight. We got Trevor Peek, 28 years old, 5'9", with a 70-inch reach, 8-0, 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Chepe Mariscal, he is 30 years old, 5'6", with a 69-inch reach, 13-6 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds. More crazy line movement on this one. Trevor Peek opening up minus 230, currently minus 110. Mariscal opening up plus 195, currently minus 110. We got to pick him, and I would not be shocked if this line even flipped in favor of Mariscal the way this line's going here. But yeah, I guess the big thing about Mariscal, you're going to hear it from everybody this week, it's just who he's fought. I mean, this guy has fought a lot of good competition outside the UFC. He's fought guys like Gregor Gillespie. That guy's pretty good, although we don't see him fight ever. He's very good. Bryce Mitchell, lost to Bryce Mitchell. He fought Carl Deaton III, who's also in the UFC. He beat Pat Sabatini, who just had a really good win over the weekend. He beat Yusuf Zalal, who was in the UFC. He lost to Joe Anderson Brito, who's in the UFC. He lost to Steve Garcia, who's in the UFC. Sean Soriano, who was in the UFC. You see where I'm going. I mean, this guy's fought some legit guys and beaten some legit guys as well. I think people are just really trying to fade Trevor Peek this week, and I think it's going to look a lot like the Torres-Mota fight last week. You know, people are trying to fade Torres, and I don't know if it's going to matter. Like Mota, probably the better striker. Mota was having a lot of success in that matchup, outlanding Torres, right? But it didn't matter because Torres landed the big shot. I can kind of see the same thing here. You know, skill for skill, Mariscal is probably the better fighter. He's fought the much better competition. I see why money's coming in on him, but you know that's not going to matter when Trevor Peek, you know, lands a bomb on him and drops him and finishes him. Right? We've seen Mariscal finished in 3 losses. We've seen him hurt. We've seen him dropped. And Trevor Peek is a guy that's going to go balls to the wall from the jump. And so does Mariscal, actually. You know, these guys are going to stand and bang until one man falls. And I just trust the chin, the toughness, the heart of Trevor Peek. We saw him take a beating on his Contender Series fight, an absolute beating. Showed a ton of heart, a ton of toughness, came back in the second round and finished the fight. Chepe's coming up a weight class here. This is a guy that, you know, he has fought at lightweight. I don't think he actually has. So he's a featherweight. Oh, he has fought like once or twice at lightweight, it looks like, but he's typically a featherweight. So he's coming up a weight class. He's going to be kind of small here, 5'6" at lightweight. I mean, Jalen Turner's like 6'3", 5'6", so at lightweight, that's small. And then he's also taking this fight, I think, on like a week-ish short notice as well. So, yeah, kind of some things going against Mariscal. Like I said, I see why people are taking some shots on the guy. He's good. He's good. I don't know. I like Trevor Peek here, and I like Trevor Peek to make this an absolute war and knock out Mariscal in the first round. So give me Trevor Peek to win this fight. Give me Trevor Peek to win this fight by first round knockout. All right, next we got Zhalgas Zhumagulov going against Joshua Van. Man, I feel like I've broken down like 50 Zhalgas Zhumagulov fights in like the last month. But we're going to talk about him again. Hopefully this fight happens. We got Zhalgas Zhumagulov, 34 years old, 5'4", with a 66.5-inch reach, 14-8 and 1-4 in his last 5 fights. Joshua Van, 21 years old, 5'5", 14-8 and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds here. Zhalgas, pretty decent sized favorite, opening at minus 190, currently minus 205. Joshua Van, opening up plus 165, currently plus 175 here. So, yeah, Joshua Van, first of all, the thing that sticks out right away is he's only 21 years old. 21 years old. This guy's very young, and he's a fun fighter. He's a very fun fighter for the flyweight division, but I think he's coming into the UFC way too soon here, especially against a guy like Zhalgas, who's kind of fought the who's who. So you take a look at Joshua Van. His only loss did come by submission, but it was about 2 years ago. I think he has been making some improvements since then in terms of the grappling. His grappling does seem to be a lot better, but he's a guy that wants to go in there and just really take your head off. He wants to go to war. He wants to stand and bang. He's in there for an exciting fight, and he has a ton of power for the flyweight division. I just feel like Zhalgas is the better fighter everywhere. But Zhalgas should be the better striker as long as he can avoid that big shot. Zhalgas has some power in his own right, but Zhalgas just has a pretty clear path to victory, in my opinion, and that's going to be getting the takedown. Joshua Van, from what I've seen, just has no takedown defense to speak of whatsoever. Zhalgas can wrestle, Zhalgas will wrestle, and if Zhalgas does wrestle, he wins minutes here and ultimately wins the decision. But yeah, Joshua Van, I think, is somebody to look out for, but like I said, a little bit too soon for the guy, a little bit too young. I would like to see him, take a couple more fights outside the UFC, and they're kind of feeding him to the wolves here. I know Zhalgas has not had the best UFC record, but that record is very, very deceiving. The guy should have a much better record in the UFC, and like I said, he's fought really good guys inside and outside the UFC. So tough fight for Joshua Van. I like the guy, but just a tough matchup for him. Give me Zhalgas Zhumagulov to grind this one out and win this fight by decision. All right, next we have the simp fight of the week. Tabatha Ricci going against Gillian Robertson. Man, we have so many good fights on this card, and you open up Twitter, and this is all you see. Just Gillian Robertson, Tabatha Ricci. It's wild. But we got Tabatha Ricci, 28 years old, 5'1", with a 62-inch reach, 8-1, 4-1 in her last 5 fights. Gillian Robertson, 28 years old, 5'5", with a 63-inch reach, 12-7 and 3-2. In her last 5 fights. Closely lined fight here. Tabatha Ricci is the favorite. Opened up minus 140. Currently minus 140. Robertson opened up plus 120. Currently plus 120. So not a ton of line movement throughout the week, which kind of surprised me. I thought, this line might close a little bit, towards a pick'em, just because I do see a lot of people on the Robertson side. But yeah, it's kind of a matchup where I don't have as strong of a take as everybody else, but I just think it's going to come down to who's the better wrestler here, who's able to get on top. And I really do lean towards Tabatha Ricci. So I see why people like Robertson, though. She's going to be the bigger fighter. She cut down to strawweight in her last fight. And I said to myself, I'm like, man, if Gillian Robertson can make the strawweight limit, if she's healthy, she looks good. I think she's going to be a problem in the division. I really do. Because she's pretty 5'5". She's going to have a height advantage here. She's going to have a little bit of reach advantage as well. She's going to be the bigger fighter in this matchup. It's just, you watch the tape on Robertson. I know you can't take too much stock in it because she's up there fighting flyweights, Maverick, Tyler Santos, JJ Aldridge, fights like that. You can't look into them too much, but, she's just getting taken down in these fights so easy. Her wrestling doesn't look that good, and I think it will be better at strawweight, but still, Tabatha Ricci is very good. Very strong in her own right. Tabatha Ricci can wrestle, judo background, BJJ black belt. I think this is a very well-matched fight, and like I said, I think it's going to come all the way down to who's able to implement the wrestling, who's able to get on top. I don't see either fighter getting a sub. I think Tabatha Ricci is going to be the better striker in this matchup just because Robertson's going to be at a striking disadvantage in every single fight. But what I like about Ricci in this fight is, that takedown even to Robertson is just terrible. Like, she just accepts the takedown, whereas I think Tabatha Ricci is going to not just accept the take. Tabatha Ricci will not want to be on her back, whereas Gillian Robertson, she's content to be on her back. 25% takedown defense from Gillian Robertson. 25%. Not good at all. So I'm going to say Tabatha Ricci is the one that's going to be able to get the takedowns. I'm going to say on the feet, Tabatha Ricci has a little bit more success, but overall a fight that I'm not that interested in, but I'll say Tabatha Ricci grinds this one out and wins a decision, but it could probably go either way. All right, next we got Mateusz Rebecki going against Loik Radzhabov. We have Rebecki, 30 years old, 5'7" with a 66-inch reach, 17-1 and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Radzhabov, 32 years old, 5'11" with a 68-inch reach, 17-4 and 1 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Another closely lined fight here. We have Rebecki opening up minus 220, currently minus 145. And then we have Radzhabov opening up plus 185, currently plus 125. So Radzhabov's the guy that honestly impressed me. So he made his debut against, who is that guy? He's a guy that's going to be fighting on the 290 card. He made his debut against, Esteban Ribovics, and he went out there and completely, I don't know, how do you say it? I don't know. He got 11 takedowns in that matchup. He looked good, and he looked a lot better than I expected. He was actually coming in there on short notice. Ribovics was supposed to fight Kamela Kirk, And I had some concerns about Radzhabov in terms of like the cardio, because typically you watch his fights and he is slowing down as the fight goes on. And I thought, hey, on short notice, he's really going to slow down. And he did a little bit, but he was able to kind of fight through it. But yeah, looked really good in that matchup. The striking, it looked okay, but it was the wrestling. I mean, this guy's a very good wrestler. That's what he does. And this feels a lot like the last matchup, right? The Robertson-Ricci matchup. This matchup is probably going to come down to who's able to implement the takedowns, who's able to get on top. And I kind of lean Radzhabov to get on top here. I mean, this guy can wrestle. This guy can wrestle consistently, early and often. And the fact that he's going to be on a full camp, as far as I'm concerned, is something I really like about him in this matchup. Rebecki, I'm just not sure how good he is. That win against Nick Fiore aged very, 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 very poorly after Chase Super just whooped him. And prior to that, he just hasn't fought anybody. Whereas Radzhabov, he has fought good guys, very, very solid guys. So I'm going to take the dog here and Loik Radzhabov, but this is going to be a close fight, I think. I think early on, Radzhabov's going to have a lot of success. But as the fight goes on, I do have concerns about the cardio. But, really of both guys, Rebecki was slowing down a lot against Fiore as well. So, yeah, this could be kind of a sloppy fight, especially down the stretch. But I'm going to take Radzhabov to win this one by very close, competitive, probably a split decision here. All right, next we got Randy Brown going against Wellington Turman. We got Randy Brown, 32 years old, 6'3" with a 78-inch reach, 16-5, and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Wellington Turman, 26 years old, 6 foot with a 72-inch reach, 18-6, and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. So we'll take a look at the odds here. We see that Randy Brown is a pretty big favorite here. He opened up minus 350, currently minus 220, and then Wellington Turman opened up plus 285, currently plus 185 there. So yeah, big favorite for Randy Brown. Wellington Turman is coming down to welterweight for the first time in I think 5 years, maybe 6 years. It's been a long time since we've seen Wellington Turman at welterweight. We haven't seen it in the UFC. He fought at middleweight outside the UFC. But a long time ago, like 5-6 years ago, right? So I do want to see Wellington Turman on the scale here. I want to see if he's able to make this cut and look good doing so, or if he even makes weight. So we'll have to see there. But stylistically, I think it's a good matchup for Randy Brown. But Randy Brown's just not a guy you want to lay minus 220 on. I mean, some of these lines this week are kind of wild. On the feet, it's Randy Brown, and it's not even close at all. Randy Brown's going to have a 6-inch reach advantage. That is huge. He's going to have a 3-inch height advantage. That is huge, even though Turman's coming down a weight class. I mean, Wellington Turman went to a competitive decision that I thought he lost against Sam Alvey. The striking was very competitive. I mean, if you're going to a competitive decision against Sam Alvey in a fight that takes place on the feet, there's some problems. I mean, Randy Brown's the better striker, but Wellington Turman, he's not going to want to strike. He's going to want to get this fight down to the mat, and we have seen Randy Brown taken down. We've seen him controlled. We saw him controlled by a 50-year-old Francisco Trinaldo a couple fights ago, and I had a big bet on Randy Brown in that fight. I was sweating in that matchup, but he was able to edge that one out ever so slightly, but he got stuck on his back for pretty much the entire third round against Trinaldo. So I'd be lying if I said Turman does not have a path to victory here. He absolutely does. That's going to be the wrestling. It's just I really don't like the chin of Turman. I don't like the striking. I think Brown's going to have just a significant amount of a significant advantage on the feet, right? And I think that the advantage on the feet is much wider than the advantage on the mat for Wellington Turman, because Brown can grapple. He can grapple. But I just think Brown's going to be so much better on the feet. When it's on the feet, it's just not even close. Whereas on the ground, I think Brown will maybe have some success here or there, can potentially hold his own. And on the feet, I just don't see Turman holding his own. So I'm going to say Brown knocks out Wellington Turman here. I think he does it in the first round. Especially after, if Turman has a bad weight cut here, I really think Brown could probably get him out of there, because Turman's chin, even at 85, is questionable. Very quiet. I mean, getting knocked out by Andrew Sanchez was a terrible look. Like, that was bad. And Brown has some pop. So give me Randy Brown. I'll say first round knockout here for him. All right, let's keep moving on here. We have Neil Magny going against Philip Rowe. We got Neil Magny, 35 years old, 6'3" with an 80-inch reach, 27-10, and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Phil Rowe, 32 years old, 6'3" with an 80.5-inch reach, 10-3, and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Neil Magny opened up a pick'em, currently minus 170, yeah. And then Phil Rowe opened up a pick'em, currently plus 145. This is a tough matchup. I know everybody's on Neil Magny this week, very popular play, but this is a tough matchup for me to call. So first of all, we got to touch on the elephant in the room, and that's the level of competition. One of these guys has fought some of the best guys in the division, and that's Neil Magny. I mean, take a look at Neil Magny's last couple losses. Gilbert Burns, Shavkat Rakhmonov, Chiesa, Ponzinibbio, Rafael dos Anjos, guys like that, right? Phil Rowe is out there beating guys like Leon Shabazian, the bad Shabazian, Orion Kose, Jason Witt, and his best win to date is Nico Price. He also lost to Gabe Green as well. So in terms of how this matchup plays out, yeah, it should be Magny that's honestly better everywhere. Magny should be the minute winner in terms of the striking. He should be landing more volume. He should be able to, just be the better striker. I don't like the striking defense of Phil Rowe. Magny should be the better wrestler. He should be the better grappler, although Phil Rowe's a black belt in BJJ, training at Fusion XL with, Jacare and Rodolfo Vieira, all those guys, right? He's a black belt, but we've seen in his fights, he's getting taken down, he's getting controlled by Witt, by Kose. The problem with Kose and Witt is those guys just gassed out. They gassed out, and once the fight got to range, they didn't have nothing left. Phil Rowe stopped, and whereas with Magny, if Magny chooses to grapple here, he's not going to gas out. He's going to have success, and he can do that across 15 minutes. So I heard an interview with Magny, and he's talking about how this is a great matchup to showcase his striking, and I think that would be a mistake. Yes, I think he could win those striking exchanges. Yes, I think he could have success striking against Phil Rowe, but why? Why? I mean, at that point, you risk getting hurt. You risk getting clipped because Phil Rowe hits hard. If I was Matt, I would take down Phil Rowe. I think the guy, Phil Rowe, has a clear hole in his game, and that's the takedown defense. That's the get-up game. Once he's taken down, he's not getting back up, and Neil Magny should have all the skills to take this fight down to the mat and wear on Phil Rowe for 3 rounds. So I've been flipping back and forth on this fight, but I'm going to take Neil Magny here, and I'm going to take him to win this fight by decision. I just think he has multiple paths here. As long as he does not get knocked out, he should win this fight. And like I said, if he grapples, if he gets this fight down to the mat, just Phil Rowe's not going to have any answers whatsoever. I don't feel great about it. Neil Magny, I've always questioned his durability. He's now 35 years old. He's been knocked out twice, submitted 6 times. He's going against a dangerous guy, but in terms of minute winning ability, he's going to be the far better minute winner in this matchup. Give me Neil Magny to win this fight by decision. Next, we got Brendan Allen going against Bruno Silva. Should be a very, very fun fight here. We will start with Brendan Allen, who is 27 years old, 6'2" with a 75-inch reach, 21-5, 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Bruno Silva, 33 years old, 6 foot with a 74-inch reach, 23-8 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. So we'll take a look at the odds, and we see that Brendan Allen is the favorite. Let's see, he opened up around minus 300, currently minus 190, and then we have Bruno Silva opening up plus 250, currently plus 165. And I talked about it a little bit with, Randy Brown, Jamall Emmers. Same thing with Brendan Allen. You do not want to lay minus 200 on a guy like Brendan Allen. Brendan Allen has all the skills to win this fight and win this fight convincingly. And this could look like the most dominant win on the entire card if he goes out there and fights smart. But Brendan Allen and fighting smart in the same sense, it just doesn't go together. This is a guy that when you want him to grapple, he's going to strike. When you want him to strike, he's going to grapple, right? Like against Punahele Soriano, he won that fight. He won the fight against Soriano, but my goodness, take down Soriano, implement that wrestling, that grappling. Against Chris Curtis, he lost that fight. You got to take down Chris Curtis, right? He struck with Chris Curtis, got knocked out. Against Sean Strickland, I don't think he even attempted to take down Sean Strickland. Maybe once. He struck with Sean Strickland and got knocked out by Sean Strickland. I mean, Chris Curtis and Sean Strickland especially is not really knocking out anybody. I mean, that's a bad look. If Sean Strickland can knock you out, Bruno Silva can absolutely knock you out. Bruno Silva hits like a truck. But Bruno Silva has a huge hole in his game. Massive hole. So he's a black belt in BJJ, supposedly, but this is a guy that's been submitted like 7 times in his career. This guy's like 7 submission losses. His takedown defense isn't great. His submission defense is not great. He's terrible off his back. If Brendan Allen gets his fight down to the mat, he's going to run through Bruno Silva like a hot knife through butter, I think. It's just, will Allen wrestle, or will he try to strike with Bruno Silva? If he tries to strike with Bruno Silva, I think he's getting knocked out. But he has such a clear path to victory here that I got to go with Brendan Allen. I don't trust him. I don't trust him at all, but he could make this look so easy. So I'm going to take Brendan Allen, first round sub, get the takedown, get on top, and finish this fight. Bruno Silva's going to have nothing to offer on his back here. But if he goes out there, tries to strike with Bruno Silva, it's going to be a much different fight. So give me Allen first round sub. Moving on, we got Gabriel Santos going against David Onama. We got Gabriel Santos, 26 years old, 5'9", with a 71.5-inch reach, 10-1, 4-1 in his last 5 fights. David Onama, 29 years old, 5'11", with a 74-inch reach, 10-2 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds. Another big favorite here where, it's another wide line. Gabriel Santos actually opened up as a plus 135 underdog for some reason, currently minus 230. And then David Onama opened it up a minus 275 favorite, currently plus 195. So, Gabriel Santos is a guy. So I bet on Lerone Murphy when these guys were supposed to fight. Lerone Murphy versus Gabriel Santos. I bet on Lerone Murphy. And after, digging into it a little bit more, I actually hedged out of my Lerone Murphy for some profit. I arbed out. And the reason was because I was very impressed with Gabriel Santos. Like, very, very impressed with this guy. On the feet, this guy's wild. This guy's fun. He has a ton of power. He kind of reminds me of Charles Oliveira, like on the feet. Like, he's willing to eat one to give one. Super dangerous. He's tough. I like Gabriel Santos on the feet. And then on the mat, he's just a phenomenal grappler. This guy's grappling is next level. Just a very, very impressive fighter in Gabriel Santos. He's only 26 years old. My goodness. I mean, this guy's going to be good. So I think people are really high on him now after his performance against Lerone Murphy, where I thought he clearly beat Lerone Murphy. I don't know. A lot of people thought that Gabriel Santos beat Lerone Murphy. Like, that decision honestly shocked me. But we've seen some pretty more shocking decisions than that in the past. But that one kind of surprised me. So yeah, I think his stock really shot up in a loss against Lerone Murphy. Whereas David Onama, his stock just plummeted. Like, people were high on David Onama. People were excited about this guy. People were talking about this guy. And then he goes out there and loses to Nate Landwehr and just looks horrible. He had some success early. He hurts Landwehr, almost finishes him, but after that just gasses out. Didn't offer anything after that first round. Just a very, very poor performance for David Onama. So I think at this point, people super high on Gabriel Santos, people super low on David Onama, and that's why we are getting a minus 230 on Gabriel Santos. Like, I think Santos is really good, but minus 230, I mean, I think we're disrespecting David Onama a little bit. But yeah, that Landwehr fight was so disappointing. Like, just a disappointing performance for Onama. I think early on, Onama's going to be super live. I really do. Onama hits really hard. This is a guy that's going to have a height and reach advantage. Gabriel Santos, he's tough, but he's been hurt before. He's been dropped before. He's been wobbled before. Able to recover, but if you get hit by David Onama, there could be some problems. So early on, I do have some concerns about Gabriel Santos, but as this fight goes on, we saw it in the Landwehr fight. Landwehr could have finished him, honestly, 20 times. I mean, he could have finished David Onama 20 times in that fight. I don't think Nate Landwehr was like pumping up the crowd instead of finishing. It was so weird. Luckily, I didn't have like a violence bet on that fight, but if I would have, my TV would have been thrown out the window. Gabriel Santos isn't going to do that. Gabriel Santos is a killer. Very good on the mat, very good on the feet, dangerous everywhere the fight goes. If David Onama gasses out here, Santos is going to take advantage, unlike Landwehr, and he is going to finish David Onama. So I'm going to say Gabriel Santos weathers the early storm. This is going to be a war. He might even get hurt a couple times in the first round, but I think he takes over as the fight goes on and gets a second-round finish here against David Onama. I'll say second-round submission for Gabriel Santos here. Probably fight of the night. And then we have this fight. Probably the lowest level fight on the card, and it's on the main card. But we got Justin Tafa going against Austin Lane. We got Justin Tafa, 29 years old, 6 foot with a 74-inch reach, 6-3, 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Austin Lane, 35 years old, 6'6" with an 80-inch reach, 12-3, and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Justin Tafa, decent sized favorite, opening up minus 220, currently minus 185. Austin Lane open up plus 185, currently plus 160. So this fight seems pretty straightforward, seems pretty easy to be honest, but I do have one slight concern. First of all, Tabatha should knock this guy out. I mean, I don't know what Austin Lane's doing in the UFC. I don't think he's that great. He's beaten some lower level guys, but he's been knocked out 3 times. He's never seen the scorecards. This guy's a killer be killed fighter. He's huge. He's big. He's 6'6", 80-inch reach. He's going to have a 6-inch height advantage and a 6-inch reach advantage on the feet, but that's not going to matter. Tabatha's the better striker by a mile. Austin Lane kind of has that tall man's defense, chin up in the air, terrible striking defense. Tabatha should knock this guy out. Where I have concerns, though, is if Austin Lane gets on top of Tabatha, it might be over. I mean, it might be over. Like Austin Lane, the one thing that did impress me about Austin Lane, this is a guy that I believe used to play football, very physically strong guy, good athlete. If he could like tackle Tabatha, because his wrestling, if he can tackle Tabatha, get on top, he probably finishes the fight. So that's my one concern. If Austin Lane somehow ends up on Justin Tabatha, Tabatha probably loses, because Austin Lane honestly is solid once he does get on top. Really good ground and pound, and we have not really seen Tabatha on his back at all in the UFC. So that's a major concern when we're talking about Lane minus about 200 on Tabatha here. But, skill for skill, I think Tafatha's the better fighter. In terms of the striking, like I said, I think it's night and day. And if Austin Lane chooses to go out there and strike with Tabatha, he's getting clipped and clipped very early. So I am going to take Tabatha to win this fight by first round knockout, but laying this much chalk on a low level heavyweight fight does not seem to work out more often than not. But yeah, Tabatha should knock this guy out. He should do it in the first round. Give me Justin Tabatha to starch Austin Lane, give him his 4th knockout loss. I believe all 4 probably coming in the first round as well. So give me Tabatha to get the job done very convincingly. Next, we have the co-main event, Amanda Ribas going against Maycee Barber. You got Amanda Ribas, 29 years old, 5'3" with a 66-inch reach, 11-3, 3-2 in her last 5 fights. Maycee Barber, 25 years old, 5'5", with a 65-inch reach, 12-2 and 4-1 in her last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds. Another wild line here. Ribas opening up minus 145, currently minus 200. Maycee Barber opening up plus 125, currently plus 170. Like it was crazy. Like it was like Sunday, right? I was looking at the lines. I saw Ribas like minus 150. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. Like a couple hours later, like minus 220. Like what's going on with these lines? Some weird, crazy line movement earlier in the week. The lines have settled down a little bit, but my goodness, laying minus 200 on Ribas. What could go wrong here? But in terms of making a pick here, it's got to be Ribas. Maycee Barber, her last fight was just, that's all I really needed to see, really. I mean, getting taken down like 5 times by Andrea Lee was not a good look. And I thought Maycee Barber lost that fight. It was close. Maycee Barber had the better moments on the feet, but Andrea Lee was able to get 5 takedowns and rack up a whole lot of control time as well. So yeah, I scored the fight for Andrea Lee. I also scored the Miranda Maverick fight against Barber for Miranda Maverick as well. So she very well could be like 2-4 in her last 6 fights, Maycee Barber. She beats Montana De La Rosa. She beats Jessica Ai. I just think Ribas has a good path to victory here, and that path to victory is going to be to wrestle. I don't really like the fact that Amanda Ribas is fighting up at flyweight. I like her at strawweight a little bit better, but maybe this is the right weight class for her. But she is going to be undersized in a lot of these matchups, this including. So kind of the size is the one thing that scares me a little bit in this matchup. The chin of Amanda Ribas always scares me. But, man, she looked really good in her last fight against Viviane Araújo. Her striking looked better than ever. She was showing power. She hurt Viviane. She was showing some good wrestling, good grappling, good cardio. I mean, she looked good. Flawless performance against Viviane Araújo in a fight where she was about to pick him. Good win there. And, yeah, like I said, I think she can just take down Maycee Barber easily. I think Maycee Barber's takedown defense is atrocious. I mean, she's strong, but she can be taken down very easy. 47% takedown defense for Maycee Barber. And unlike Andrea Lee, Amanda Ribas is a legit black belt in BJJ. And like if Andrea Lee got on top of Barber, Barber was able to pop back up, whatever. If Amanda Ribas gets on top of Barber, she's not getting up, in my opinion. So I think Ribas can steal, 2 of these 3 rounds via the wrestling on the feet. Very iffy, very sketchy. I'd be very concerned if this fight took place on the feet for a long period of time, but Ribas, she's going to have that path to victory. It's going to be the takedown route. I think she does take it and win this fight by decision. But you never know. The judges really like Macy Barber, so it could be a situation where Hebos wins the fight, but they give it to Barber. We've seen it happen more than once, so I'd be careful laying this price tag on Hebos. But give me Hebos to win this fight, win it by decision. All right, then we got the main event. I did do a main event breakdown. Went a little bit more into detail. If you want to check that out, it's on the channel. But we got Ilia Topuria going against Josh Emmett. We got Topuria, 26 years old, 5'7" with a 69-inch reach, 13-0, and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Josh Emmett, 38 years old, 5'6", with a 70-inch reach, 18-3 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. We have Topuria, who's one of the biggest favorites here on the card. We got Topuria open up minus 300, currently sitting at minus 310. Josh Emmett open up plus 250, currently plus 260. Yeah, this week's wild. Some of these lines, like I said, I like a lot of favorites this week, but I hate a lot of these lines, this one including. Should Topuria win this fight? Yeah, he probably should, but my goodness, Josh Emmett is getting pretty disrespected in this matchup. Josh Emmett, one of the hardest, if not the hardest hitting featherweight in the division. At one point, Josh Emmett had a 7-fight streak of getting at least one knockdown. This guy's power is just unreal. And Topuria is a guy that kind of fell in love with his striking recently, and good on him. And his striking's looked really good. He has a ton of power. He's knocking guys out. But you take a look at Topuria in his debut, and also prior to his debut, this guy's a next-level grappler. Black belt in BJJ, can wrestle. This guy's ground game's no joke whatsoever. I would like to see Topuria come back to that wrestling, that grappling, implement that here, and I think if he does that, he can make this look pretty easy. But if he goes out there and strikes and stands and bang with Josh Emmett, I have some serious concerns about laying minus 310 on Ilia Topuria this week. Could he still win a fight where they're going to be standing and banging? Yes. But if he does go out there and stand and bang with Josh Emmett, we've seen Topuria knocked down bad against Jai Herbert. Herbert landed a big head kick. Topuria got dropped. He ate it. He was able to recover right away, but still, we saw him get dropped bad. Josh Emmett's much better than Herbert. Josh Emmett hits much harder than Herbert. So, but Josh Emmett's 38. He's 38 years old. The weight cut seems to be really getting at Josh Emmett at this point. I think we are going to see Josh Emmett retire in the near future, or maybe even move. I wouldn't mind seeing Emmett move up a weight class, because that weight cut looks rough for him. Like, remember, he was doing an interview after the weight cut. After weighing in his last fight against Yair, his face was completely sunken, became a meme. It was bad. So yeah, the weight cut's really, really getting to Josh Emmett at this point. He was talking about injuries as well. I think we're going to be seeing the last of Josh Emmett in the very near future, because he's 38 years old at featherweight. That's definitely getting up there. It's not heavyweight where you can go out there and be 44 and keep going. It's featherweight. It's one of these lower divisions. So I think we're seeing about the end of Josh Emmett. I think Topuria is getting him at a very good time here. Josh Emmett's fought the who's who. He's fought very good competition. He's beat very good competition. This is going to be Topuria's best win by a mile. His best win prior to this is going to be Bryce Mitchell, but prior to that, just really hasn't fought anybody that great. Ryan Hall, Jai Herbert, Damon Jackson, Yusuf Zalal, not great wins. Bryce Mitchell, great win. But this, if he beats Josh Emmett, that's going to be a very, very good win. Best win of his career by a mile. And I can't wait to see where Topuria goes next. I'm going to take Topuria to win this fight by first round sub. I think he gets the fight down to the mat and finds the finish. Could also knock him out. It could be knockout sub, flip a coin. But I think Topuria, if he does win this fight, it's going to be by finish, and it's going to be early. If this fight was to, for some reason, get into the 3rd, 4th, 5th round, I have serious concerns about the cardio of Topuria, because the one time we did see him in the 3rd against Zalal, he was gassed bad. But I don't see it getting that far. I think Topuria gets this done fairly early on. So give me Topuria by finish here. I think he gets Josh Emmett out of there. But again, another really, really wide line. So yeah, there you have it. 14-fight card, very good fight card. I do have one bet thus far, looking at placing several more. Not going to be like a massive card for me, but there are some spots that are sticking out, some violent spots that are sticking out. If you want to check out those bets, check out dfsbythenumbers.com, or I'll be doing my betting breakdown video later in the week for free, and then also live stream Friday and then Saturday as well. But yeah, guys, leave a like, subscribe to the channel. Sorry about the late breakdown. I had the cruise, I had a wedding. Should be back to normal schedule this week. 11-fight card next week. I'll try to get the breakdown out Monday at the very latest. So more early breakdowns coming. Don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on the post notifications so you don't miss out on those uploads. Best of luck for UFC Jacksonville. Let's keep the ball rolling after hitting an Arman Tsarukyan plus 1,300 round 3 prop last week. Best of luck for UFC Jacksonville. We'll talk to you soon, guys. See you.